Welcome to the Candle Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I am the Candle Business Coach. I'm also a mum of three and a kindness advocator. This podcast is all about making and selling candles, business development, and mindset, delivered to you with advice, inspiration, and motivation in a new episode every Friday. This episode is brought to you by the Membership for Candle Makers, the Candle Makers Collective. Becoming a member gives you access to fortnightly online group Q&A coaching sessions to support you, monthly online workshops and trainings to help you grow your business, plus frequent expert guest speakers to inspire and teach you. You'll also have access to an ever-growing resource library with templates, guides, planners, and ebooks. But my favorite aspect of the membership is our exclusive Facebook group for accountability, connection, and support. So if you're looking to take your candle business to the next level and learn more about the Membership for Candle Makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. Today we have another candle maker conversation with the beautiful Jenny from Hampton Botanic. Now, for those of you playing along, you'll know that Jenny was on the podcast back on the 18th of August, 2023. It was episode 85. And we'll say it's a year later or 12 months later that we're having this conversation again, just to see how Jenny's journey has changed, what has been different, what stayed the same, and how she's grown as a person and as a candle maker. So, Jenny, would you like to say hello to the listeners?
Hello, everyone. And I'm so excited to be back here sharing my journey. Actually, last time, this will probably come up in your notes, but when we had our last conversation, I hadn't even launched yet. So there are going to be some big changes to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so fun and fascinating capturing the story in the pre-launch phase, because you're so, not just yourself, but other people I'm speaking to as well. Everyone's so full of hope and excitement and nerves and the unknown of what's going to happen. How will the launch go and all of the things. So we might as well start our conversation there. How did the launch go for you? Was it what you expected? And yeah, just tell us all about it.
I feel like I barely launched. So that's somewhere to start. It wasn't like a huge moment. I didn't have a big party. It wasn't like, this is the launch date and off we go. I booked in a market to do. That was going to be the first time that I was selling. So I did the market. And I enjoyed that. So then I booked another market. And then I made a bit of a haphazard website. And one thing kept leading to the other, to the other. So it was just this constant slow movement. And it wasn't one big event, which was really surprising to me. I thought that a launch was going to be a big event, which I'm sure that it is for a lot of people. But for me, it was just sort of a little start and then off we went and just kept on rolling. So it was a snowball.
Yeah, I love that. It's so nice, actually, because some people that I speak to, obviously candle makers, put so much emphasis on the launch, and they feel like their business is going to make or break depending on how the launch goes. Will they sell out in, 48 hours or 24 hours? What if they don't get any sales? What if no one comes to the website? There's so many things that are really outside the control of us as the business owner. All we can do is just, as you say, put that one foot in front of the other, keep that snowball moving and growing. And the launch doesn't define the success or failure of your business. It's just one part. Yes, it's an important part. And yes, it can be a big part. But what I love about your quote unquote strategy, Jenny, is that you just kept going, and you are still going. You just think, no, I'm just going to just do this and this and this. And it just grows beautifully and organically from there. So I probably should have started with this before we got into the launch. But for those of the listeners that haven't actually gone back and listened to episode 85, and that was a little while ago, so just to refresh everyone's memory, tell us about you, tell us about your business and what Hampton Botanic means to you.
Hampton Botanic is my little business, and I officially launched in November of 2023, very, very gently. I make candles with only natural fragrance oils, which is the main point of difference about my candles. And I also have an organic skincare component to the business as well. So that's probably a larger side of my business, but equally important with the candles.
Mm-hmm. And I have to confess, I am a customer of Jenny's, and her skincare is amazing. So we'll have all of her links in the show notes if you wanted to go and check them out, because I My skin has never felt so good. I've never glowed so much. And it's just nice to be like to pamper yourself in a really beautiful way with such gorgeous ingredients and beautiful products. So this is a little plug for you. But I want to know, what have you been up to in the past year and a half or so since our last podcast record? Now, obviously you've launched, you're out, you're selling products, you're going to markets. What else has happened in your business journey?
So last year, I really became a market queen after doing that first one and enjoying it and finding what I thought was a reasonable degree of success. I thought, oh, this will be great. And so I just kept booking in. I then went on a mission to book myself into every single market I could possibly get myself into, which established candle makers will know it's not always easy. Most markets are already full up for their candle quotient, and some markets are also for their skincare as well. So I did have some markets where I could take my skincare only. But for the most part, I was just out. So I put myself on waiting lists. I messaged everybody within a reasonable radius of myself, and I went along to everything. So I was doing sometimes 3 markets a week. I would travel several hours for markets sometimes if it was somewhere where I could stay with a friend overnight and coincide with a social visit as well to make it worthwhile in case I didn't make any sales. So that was really the bulk of my year, was just seeing, where do I make money? Where do I not? Where is my customer? It's something that business mentors talk about a lot, especially in terms of online. Where does your customer hang out? And I was definitely finding that physically, where does my customer hang out in terms of markets? And so after the first 2 or 3 months, I had a much better idea of where my customers are. So then I started narrowing down on the markets that I tried to get into and just flogged them. I did so many markets.
It's really awesome to hear that not only did you give yourself permission to try something new for yourself and your business, but also the fact that you knew it was going to take time to find your people. And there were going to be markets that you would go to, and straight away you'd go, this isn't my ideal customer. You'd still make sales, like you'd still make those connections and increase your brand awareness, but you knew in your heart it wasn't necessarily quote unquote the right market for your brand, whether that be the skincare, whether that be the candles, or whether that be both. But trying different things, never giving up, keep pushing forward. Those are all things, they're all mental aspects that we need to appreciate and nurture to be able to get that experience, that knowledge to keep learning and growing. So I love that you've been able to do that with your business so far.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so true that you've got to try not to take it personally if you do have a day of not good sales, especially in the early days when you're still learning and everything feels so personal. You might have a market where people are just not buying what you've got, and you realize, okay, but it doesn't mean I have a poor product. It's just, this isn't where the people are. So that's really vital information to learn. And there's also that thought that every time you're doing a market, it's advertising. This is advertising that you're essentially getting paid for. If you make enough sales to cover your costs, then it's not just marketing money that you've laid out and you're not getting anything back. You've not only reached out to all these different people who never would have seen you or smelt you or heard of you before, and all of a sudden you're on their radar. So I've found it really beneficial.
Yes. And it's always interesting to hear from candle makers that don't want to do markets, not because they can't, because I know there is a portion of candle makers that are literally unable to do markets for a variety of reasons. But then there's another portion where it scares them to think, going to a market, setting up, standing around all day, waiting for sales, waiting for customers, switch your mindset on how you word that. But the not trying new things, like completely cutting off an avenue of potential income, is a worry, because as you said, like there are markets that you're not going to be making, epic sales at. But then when you find your people, when you find the right environment, the right market for you, that's where you'll have your success. But you're not going to necessarily get it from, right out of the gate. Sometimes it does take time.
That's right. And it's so important to learn who your audience is. And you might not know when you start. I had an idea of who I thought my audience was, but the audience will tell you who they are. And I would never have known where my niche lies, actually, until I'd done the spectrum of markets. So I'm really grateful that I spent all the time and the long days. And I was terrified of doing them as well. So scared. So of all of it, of the early mornings and of will I be able to get set up in time, which for myself, most of the time, no, I won't be set up in time is the answer to that. But it's fine. If you don't have all of your price signs out by the time people start coming in, well, you just talk to them. So you look at everything as an opportunity, I think, and that helps to make you see the value in what you're doing.
Yes, 100%. And there seems to be this I don't know if fear is the right word, but there seems to be this driver of I have to know all the answers to all the business questions before I launch, before I do something, or before I start. The thing is, you kind of got to go in blind with some of it sometimes. Like, yes, you can do your research. Yes, you can build your knowledge, but the experience, the implementation is so much more valuable for you to actually see what is applicable to you and your business. And that's going to evolve over time anyway. So there's no point where you're going to know everything all the time. And that doesn't sound like fun anyway.
No, no, you're right. But it's also, I have learned so much more about my own products and more importantly, how to speak about my products from talking to my customers. I had no idea what kind of questions people were going to ask. And definitely the first few markets, I was shaken anytime anybody asked me anything because I just didn't have that confidence in myself and in what I was saying. So sales essentially is something I found very difficult. All of it was talking to people, not feeling like I deserved to be selling anything. That, which I know that you've talked a lot about in your podcasts, is believing in yourself and not letting the fear stop you from having the mindset where you know you can succeed. And so learning, I actually do know what I'm talking about here is really so fantastic, so important. And you can't do it until you do it. You can practice
Yes.
on friends all you like, but until you've got a stranger coming at you, asking you a question in a challenging way sometimes, and you think, but I do know the answer to this. And you
Yes.
respond to them and then feel good and have a really great conversation with someone, then, that's where it kind of all comes in together, I suppose.
Yes. There is a well-known, or at least on this podcast, a well-known fact that when you start a business, it's basically a personal growth journey. And if you're not prepared to go down that path, your business will not grow.
So true. It's so true. And I'm definitely still getting there
Oh,
in
Yola. It's a constant learning experience, adventure, journey. We love that word on this podcast, the word journey. But it's something that can blindside people because they think, I just want to make sales, I just want to make money, I just want to make millions, or like it's transactional when it's really like, no, you're going to grow as a person, you're going to be challenged in different ways, you're going to hit the ceiling of your own containers at different times, and it's up to you to consciously make a decision to go, okay, I'm going to move through this and I need to equip myself with all the skills I need. And that will take you on a path that might not have not anything to do with the business, but it's this beautiful ebb and flow between business growth, personal growth, and looking back on your journey and thinking, wow, look how far I've come.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. It's such a privilege.
Oh, absolutely. It's scary at times. I mean, we can all admit that. Like it can be really confronting just dealing with and managing our own expectations and, facing setbacks and figuring it out and fumbling our way through. But when you start to build your confidence, if you start to build your knowledge and then you're implementing what you're learning, then you learn some more and you implement some more, it's so much fun. And I think if you can have, again, quote unquote, the best mindset, or at least be working on having the best mindset amidst all the other challenges that life throws at us. The business journey and the entrepreneurial journey is one that I totally agree with you, Jenny, like is such a privilege.
Mm.
So looking back, what has been one of the most successful or significant moments in your candle making journey since we last spoke?
The most significant is the first time I really discovered where my target audience is. When I'd been doing a bunch of local markets and even markets a bit further afield, but just general sort of markets. And then I niched down essentially, which I'd already done in my product. So I thought, but I hadn't niched down in terms of trying to reach my audience. So once I found out, oh, wow, people here are actually, this is where I've got a lot of like-minded people looking for natural products and organic products. Then I booked a whole bunch more of them and I had a lot more success in a shorter period of time than I would have done if I'd never realized that. So that's been really important for me. And I've met so many beautiful people from those markets as well, or the expos that I've been doing. I'm now on the board of my local wellness, annual wellness expo in my region. So I'm learning about putting on huge events. It's just led to places that I never would have imagined. So that was really significant for me.
Incredible. What opportunities have come your way that you've been able to enjoy and go along with?
Well, I'll be doing my first big festival next month coming up. It's going to be a 4-day event. It's really mainly a 3-day event, but you can set up half a day beforehand if you're there in time. So I'm calling it a 4-day event, which I'm so thrilled about and so I wouldn't say terrified. I'm not terrified, but I'm because I don't really know how to approach an event like this. But I know that after I've done it, I will know how. And I
Mm.
know the kind of audience who's going to be there. I know the products that they're going to like. So I can gear my stock towards that, make sure that I've got plenty of these sort of things that I know are going to sell.
That's going to be amazing. And it's only in 25 days, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Because I know which event you're going to, and I know how many days it is. So,
Yes, you do.
now every journey has its challenges. We, as candle makers and business owners, will not always face the same challenges as everyone else. There are, there's the testing challenges of trying to get the best hot throw and the best cold throw, and finding the most cost-effective suppliers. And there are challenges that we do face, that most of us face, but then we have our own challenges that we experience and that we need to learn from. So have there been any particular obstacles you've faced and you've learned from them and you've overcome them?
Absolutely. And for me, my major challenge, which people who have listened to our previous podcast will know the context of, is that I was going to have a designer take care of my logo, my labels, my website, all of that for me. And I hadn't hired someone. It was a friend who I'd spoken to who's exceptionally talented and exceptionally capable. And it just didn't quite work out, and there are a lot of lessons from it, and there's no hard feelings. She's exceptionally busy and there were technological issues, but from August last year, I expected that all of that stuff was going to be taken care of at the right time, and it just never happened. It never happened. And so I ended up on the fly having to design all of my own labels. Sort of, it got down to the last weekend and I still hadn't heard from her in response to my messages. So I did them all. And then I made my own website, which I hadn't planned on having to do. So I've learned so many extra skills and spent a lot of time, but I did have the time to do it. So I'm very, very lucky in that aspect. But it was a huge shift in the way that I saw myself working in the business and really what I saw my business looking like. It became very much just this one-woman show and me doing things that were maybe not quite as professional looking as I'd hoped they would be, but doing my best.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
learning, okay, so if this isn't working, what am I going to do? You don't even stop to think about who am I annoyed at or who could have done this better. It's just like what needs to be done and how can we get it done?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good lesson for me to learn as well.
Yeah, very much solution focused as opposed to, focusing on the problem and ruminating in that space. It's like, right, let's keep this snowball moving forward.
That's right.
Keep pushing it down or up the hill, depending on the different days.
Yep, so true.
Would you say that your craftsmanship or craftwomanship has evolved over the last 12, 18 months?
Absolutely. You're able to refine the details of things the more you know about it. And I can't remember how many candle fragrances I started with now when I did start, but I might have had 9, 7,
Yeah, I think it was up there.
6. I can't really remember, but I started with a certain amount and I actually haven't grown my fragrance range very much, which has been deliberate because I've seen one thing, how much space things take up at a market. You've got limited amount of space that you've got to work within. So you want to really just pick your best ones and keep it to that. Also, in terms of the my candles are all decorated. I use embellishments on top, little wax embellishments. And it just like with any artistic process, I think the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I'm able to make them look a bit more beautiful now. I think the biggest way that things have changed for me is in terms of my testing. The amount of testing time reduces. Obviously, everything still has to be tested really comprehensively, but I have this incredible backlog of data now that I can refer to and see, okay, well, a candle in this same jar, there were, over 6 different fragrances. I used 4 different wicks. So I can choose one of those to start with and then see where I go from here, rather than just starting with the supplier's recommendation, which may actually have no bearing on your candle at all because they've got to offer such a generic suggestion. Every fragrance behaves so differently that I think that's been the biggest change.
Absolutely. And I love how way you've answered that. You can see how much your confidence has grown with the testing phase and with the making of the embellishments and just making your products, because as you say, you've got this huge backlog of data and information that you can not fall back on, but you can
refer to,
draw strength from, and you're not starting blind. You've got that knowledge behind you so that you can at least start with a little bit more of a direction.
That's right. And also I mean, candle makers as we progress, we've watched, but I have burned hundreds of test candles by now, hundreds. So I've got a much better feel in the first couple of burns for how it's going to behave the rest of the way down. You can sense these things and you can see them. You just understand the behavior of a candle a lot more, the more experience you have. So you're right. I do feel a lot more confident with that aspect.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
nice feeling.
It is. No, and it's nice to see that on your face and in your soul and in the way that you present yourself and your products. There's all I'll use the word glow. Like there's a glow about it, like, pun intended, both because you've got a beautiful glow serum. Oh my God, a syndrome. I love serum. I said it wrong. I'm going to edit that out. And obviously the glow of the candles. But knowing that when you first start your journey, you're giving it, you give it a red hot go. You hope that it all works out. But then if you fast forward to being 2 years into the journey, and then when you reach 5 years and 10 years, like some other candle makers we have, like say in the Candle Makers Collective, the knowledge and experience that you have to draw from is huge. And there's a vast difference between the very first candle that you make and test to, current day. So it's so nice to feel and to see that your journey is evolving, but you're enjoying it along the way.
Absolutely. If anything, I enjoy it more because I understand my craft and I feel like I'm becoming a lot more of an expert in my field, which is, it's such a relief when you compared to when you're a newbie and thinking, oh God, is this right? I hope this is right. I think this is good. Does this? And you see it in a lot of the candle maker groups online and stuff. People put up photos, my candle has been burning for 3 hours. Does this look all right to you? And we all have had those insecurities within ourselves, I think, when we started. And I don't have any of those anymore. I feel so confident.
Yes.
Knowing at least that side of things. Yeah, it's a real relief and I get a kick out of it.
I love that. I love that for you.
Thank you.
Are you ready for personalised support for your candle making journey? Hi there, my friend. I'm Kirsty Allen, the Candle Business Coach, and I help candle makers like you with mindset and business strategy, as well as troubleshooting your candle making struggles. With my private coaching, we'll work together to set and achieve your goals. And whether you need a single session for clarity or a series of sessions for ongoing support, I'm here to help you every step of the way. Check out the show notes for details of my private coaching sessions and packages, and let's achieve your goals one candle at a time. Now, when it comes to customers and the feedback that you've been receiving to help guide the path of your products, can you think of any memorable moments or anything that, like any stories where they've given you about your products that's just really warmed your heart?
Yes. I think that I've had lots of experiences of that actually, which has been really nice. And it's probably another reason why I would recommend that people do markets, even if they have an aversion to it or a fear of it. Because when you talk to people about your products, you'll realize that so many people love them as much as you do. And it just helps you keep going when you see that people want and love what you're doing. One really significant moment started off as probably a negative. I had a business coach who's obviously not part of the candle group, with an external company. I had a business coach and I went to see her and I took her a little hamper of my goodies and I had one of my candles in there and she said, oh, I think you should get rid of those embellishments off the top. They just look cheap. And I was devastated. And she said, your branding, it just looks cheap and tacky. It looks like Nana's house. I was beside myself. I was really upset. I was also trying to be strong and take it as constructive criticism, but I was heartbroken, of course, at a market the next night. And I went there thinking, oh, I've got these rubbish products that no one likes. And I've never had more compliments on the specific appearance of my products ever. It was a great reminder to me to believe in myself and what I'm doing. And if you get one person who doesn't believe in what you're doing, that's okay. Their opinion isn't everything. It's just their opinion. And being able to communicate with lots of people about what you're doing is really the best way to get feedback. Listen, take majority rules, not one woman who might have been having a bad day.
Not even majority rules. Like you say, you've got to trust your intuition and find your people. There are candle makers out there that are wanting to try new things, whether that's the look of their candles or the way they present their brand. And they receive a lot of criticism from people that aren't in their corner or that aren't in the arena with them. But they're so strong-willed sounds negative, but I'm going to take it as a positive. Like they're so determined with what they want to bring into the market, that what they want to bring into their creative space of candle making. That's just one of the challenges that they're facing on their journey. So it's like for the example that you gave, Jenny, the universe is saying, all right, these are the two sides of the coin. You can listen to this one person, or you can listen to the people that are actually buying your products. And lucky for all of us, you kept going and kept that snowball growing.
Yes, yes. And that self-belief, it's not easy to maintain, but you've got to have it. You've got to keep it as well. Keep it and hold it. It's the most precious thing, I think. It's one of the most important things to keep you going when times are tough. If you believe in what you're doing, because there's always going to be naysayers or whatever out there. If you believe in what you're doing as well, you'll be open to seeing the people who are also into it.
Yes.
Be people.
And when you find your people and they happen to spend their money with you on your products, it just sweetens the deal, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It does. It's my favorite part of the whole process is the people who I've met throughout all of this. It hasn't ceased. So it's been a year, just over a year that I've been selling now, and it doesn't stop being thrilling. And it doesn't stop touching my heart if somebody says something nice about my products and enjoys the products. And it means so much to me.
Yes. And the day that it doesn't impact you like that is the day you hang up your candle making boots. Yeah. You hang up your wicks.
Candle making Crocs.
Yes. Candle making Ugg boots, slippers, Udi.
Well, yeah.
The Udi.
Yes.
Oh, so funny. Now, in the past year or so, have you brought out any new products or any new collections?
I have released a few new skincare products. I started with only a couple of my skincare products, and I've definitely expanded that range. And in terms of my candles, I'm always working on a new fragrance or two. So I have introduced a couple of new fragrances and removed only one actually that hasn't sold. It just never sold. And it's the one that I said last time on a recording that was my favorite. And I thought everyone was going to love this, and nobody bought it ever.
Oh.
There was one couple who really loved it, and I saw them at one market, and then at the next market I didn't have it anymore. They hadn't bought, and they were sad. And I said, "Oh, we wanted to get that one." And I said, "Well, nobody else has bought it. That's why I don't have it anymore, but I've got one down here. I'll just give it to you."
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I got rid of that, but the development is such an exciting phase. So yes, I'm always working on new fragrances. I'm testing a couple of new ones at the moment, but mostly my core range of candles has stayed the same. I've also definitely expanded my wax melts range because it's just easier. Those are a lot easier the fragrances that I struggle with wicking, I can make the melts of them, and that's fine.
Yeah, and some people prefer wax melts anyway, so it's nice to have that diversity of products.
Absolutely.
Now, have you engaged in any collaborations or partnerships?
Yes, there's a collaboration there's a group that I got in touch with last year at some point, and it's a fashion group actually. So not entirely in a related industry, but I saw that they had a call out for people to have a market stall at their fashion show. And they're a brand new company, a collective, and they're starting something completely new. And I messaged them and said, look, I'm not a fashion brand, but I would love to support you in terms of sponsorship of product, because I think that your audience is going to be a similar sort of audience to my audience. So maybe I can just do that. And they ended up letting me have a market stall anyway. The woman who's running it is so innovative. She said, well, of course, beauty and fashion, it works together. Bring your candles. It's all eco. It's called the Eco Collective, who I'm working with. And they're all about sustainability and what can you do that's new? What are some options available to us to just do, to be a little bit more environmentally friendly than we were being before. And so all of my ethics completely aligned with them. So I did an event with them in November that I sponsored and had my market stall at, but that's also leading to Melbourne Fashion Week. So in March, they're having a fashion show at Queen Vic Market, and I'll be exhibiting there as well. I'm sure I'll sponsor them as well in terms of product. So there's all this potential for exposure, and it was just so beautiful doing an event with all of these like-minded people as well. When you're in a room with people whose values align with yours, it's just electric. It was magnificent, and I'm so thrilled to be part of this.
That's incredible. What a massive opportunity that would never have happened if you hadn't started your market journey, or if you hadn't even started your business, of course. But the fact that you reached out to them that can be such a hurdle for many people because they're afraid if they get told no, or if they're rejected, or if they don't hear back. But you've got nothing to lose. And think of it, it just goes to show what incredible opportunities are out there if you're willing to put yourself, throw your hat in the ring and give it a go. So that's incredible. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say, I'm pretty sure that it's from the support that I get in the Candlemakers Collective that I felt brave enough. I mean, I didn't even think twice about it. I just messaged her and said, I think that our values align. Maybe we can do something. It didn't occur to me. And I feel like before I had the support of a good group, I wouldn't have done that because I wouldn't have believed in myself enough to do it. And it's one of the reasons she created this space for me. And she was so impressed that I had just reached out and said, hey, can we figure something out together?
I love that.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the support in the Candlemakers Collective.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. And it's so wonderful that the energy that you put into that message, it would have been say yes, say no, doesn't bother me. I'm grew up a business regardless, as opposed to I really hope that I get a response and I really hope that I'm not rejected. And I like just having that kind of desperate energy around it. You just, like you said, you didn't even think twice. You just did it because it felt right. You followed your intuition, you're following the butterflies, and look what's come from that, which is just incredible.
Yes, following the butterflies. I love that.
Yeah, have you not heard that before? Have I not said that before? I've not said it on the podcast.
You may well have done.
Okay, your goal is to go back and listen to every episode and report back how many times I say follow your butterflies.
We'll talk and we'll come back around and when we catch up again in a year on the podcast.
Yeah. So you said it 463 times or approximately that many. When it comes to engagement on social media or especially in person, how important is it to be connected to your audience, potential customers, and paying customers as well?
It's vital. There's nothing more important. There's nothing more important. Like I said at the start, I'm a terribly chaotic person. So I'm usually not set up in time at markets, no matter how early I get there. And so my signs won't be up, but people will be walking past. And so I chat to them and engage with them and let them know the information. Or if I see somebody walking past and I just see that their jumper fits with my vibe or something, I'll just talk to them and say hello, like, wow, I love your jumper. And that will get us into a conversation. And then, these little small conversation starters have led me to some incredibly deep conversations with people I've never met before. Some really long conversations at slow markets, which is so nice. But it's really important because it's the only way that you can let people know really what your passion is. Because I think that that's what makes people buy at the end of the day. They do connect with the seller, they connect with the maker, and your passion inspires them. And so they're not just buying the candle, they're buying that moment that they had with you.
It's so much more than just transactional.
It really is. And I have no doubt at all that it is equally important online, but that's an area that is my focus for this year, is getting my online presence a lot more present because I'm just not really there very much. I've been promoting my markets and on occasion, I think maybe once I advertised a product, but I haven't really been doing my social media. I haven't been showing up and having the conversations with people. And so I know that that's where I need to look to next.
Yeah, it's the next adventure.
It is. And I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. And I feel much better equipped now that I'm so much more familiar with how to talk about my products. And I have some better photography and all of those things that you need to do. I'm on top of a little bit more.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like if you'd split your attention between the two, you wouldn't have grown as much in the market realm because you were divided. But that's fine. That's an established path for you now. Now you can shift that focus to the online space and see where that will take you. And that will lead you to even more opportunities as well.
Yes, exactly. I'm very excited about it and very aware that I'm playing the long game as well.
Yes.
There are people in business who, if they don't succeed in the first year or maybe 2 years, and that's enough for them, they're ready to give up. And I'm never going to do that. I shouldn't say never, but I'm certainly not in the phase where I'm thinking about doing that. I'm like, okay, I've spent a year doing markets. Now I can do this because this is what I want to do forever.
It brings you joy.
Brings me joy. And I've seen that the people love my products, that I'm good at this. and people want what I have to offer, and that what I have to offer is something different from what else is out there. So it really gives me the belief that I can and should keep going. And it's okay if things are taking a little bit longer than you expect, or things are a bit slower, or, I thought I was going to do all the social media stuff last year along with the markets and things, and it just wasn't possible for me in the state that I was in and with the time that I had. And so, yeah, this is the year for the social media.
I'm going to hold that to you, but when we chat next year, you'll be like, well, that didn't go as a planned, or it'll be like, this was the best decision ever. Who knows? It'll be one of the two. Won't be between. There's no gray. It's all black and white.
Yes.
Now, on a personal level, how do you feel you've grown as a candle maker? Have there been any insights or realizations that have shaped your approach?
Yes. It's to stick to what I'm doing, even though my candle sales aren't huge when you compare it with the other side of my business, because there are so many candle companies out there. And I found that a lot of people don't really care about what I do. A lot of people don't care if their candles have natural fragrance or traditional fragrance at all, which is totally fine. It's more, there's a percentage of people out there who cannot burn traditional candles, like myself, and we need the ones with the natural fragrance oil. And even out of the people who can't burn traditional candles, a lot of them just won't burn candles at all because they've never heard of a candle that might not be as irritating to them. So there's a lot of education around that, but that's probably been a big one.
So looking ahead, what are your plans and goals and aspirations for not just 2025, but for the future of Hampton Botanic?
I think to really refine my message is going to be important, especially as I try to get online and do my social media marketing. It's so important to be really, really clear about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then educating people on why you're doing it. So that's the biggest goal for me, is to start making those educational videos or posts and that content to let people know about why I'm doing what I'm doing and how it may be able to benefit them or somebody that they know. That's going to be the most important thing for me, I think.
And that's where, at least moving into the online space, writing blog posts, doing lives or doing reels and sharing that education side and spreading that knowledge base, and then, optimizing it on SEO and doing all the things behind the scenes so that people can actually find your website and find your blog and find all the information, and then growing it from there. That will be a learning curve in itself. But you're on such a mission, and what your products represent and where you're going with your brand and your business is so important, not just to you, but for so many people out there that haven't heard of natural fragrance candles and skincare that doesn't have nasties in it. Like it's such an important mission that you're on, and your passion will help to give you that drive to keep sharing that mission and keep sharing that knowledge with the marketplace and with the world. Would you say that at this stage of your business journey, would you say that you're successful?
100%, more than 100%. I'm still here and I still love it.
Yes.
And I'm so, so grateful for that. I think that that's thrilling. I've made more money than I've put into it in the past 12 months, at least, as long as we don't count all of my initial costs. I've been making sales everywhere I've gone. I've been speaking to people who understand what I'm trying to do, and they're actually in the market for what I'm trying to do. So I've learned that there's a space for me. There's people who love my products. I've got many repeat customers who they'll run out of a product and message me and say, look, I've run out of the Oh My Goddess base oil. I can't live without it. Or I just had a big order from a friend of mine who I said to him, why do you want to buy so many candles? It's my best friend. And he said, well, I want to make sure that I'm never without them and that I don't save them just for special occasions. I want to burn them all the time. Those are huge markers of success to me.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a beautiful way to answer that question, because, and it's funny because everyone that I ask that question to about anything around success, no one says, well, I'm not successful because I haven't made $1 million, or I'm not successful because I haven't made 100 grand in a year, or whatever it might be. It is always, 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 and this is what I love, is always this intrinsic, I feel successful, therefore I am. I am on my path. I'm on the right journey for me. I'm following my butterflies. And that is success. You might not necessarily have reached all your goals, but that doesn't mean you're not successful along the way. And I think the way you've answered that is so beautiful and so genuine to who you are as a person, that it's just a joy hearing you phrase it that way.
Thank you.
All right, Jenny, we've come to I won't say my favorite part, because this whole conversation has been very much beautiful and very much my favorite. But we've come to one of my favorite parts of the podcast where I ask all my guests 3 questions relating to candles. And again, we would have asked this, well, we did ask these questions in the first episode we recorded together, but let's ask them again to see whether your answers have changed. So, number 1, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
This one I know is different. My new favorite is, again, it's one of my fragrances, of course. It's called Chai Time, or Christmas time. It's rebranded as the Pud because I actually designed it for Christmas. We talked about seasonal fragrances during our first discussion, and I said, oh, no, I'm not going to be doing any of that. But then I did a little bit of experimenting and thought, but what about, and I ended up coming up with this like quite phenomenal fragrance. It's one of my absolute best sellers any time of the year. And it's my favorite as well. It's just kind of, it's addictive. It's cinnamony, and it's cinnamon and vanilla and whiskey. And it's a lot of enticing elements all in together. And that is now my favorite.
Oh, and so what's it called?
Chai Time.
Chai Time, yes.
It smells just like a chai latte.
Beautiful. Because that's such a complex array of flavors and scents. So that would be amazing to smell.
I'll have to send one your way.
Question number 2, what do you love about candles?
I love the space that they give to people. People have their own relationships with candles, everybody who buys them or who burns them. And they're really important for some people, especially I think parents who just need a moment, even if it's just a second that they light the candle, then they know they've done a little something for themselves. Or it's other people at a certain point in their ritual where they've cleaned the house and then they'll light the candle. Or they're having a bad day and they've got their best fragrance, so then they'll light the candle. It's what it does for everybody who buys it is so special, I think, and that makes me want to continue on with the journey that I'm doing, because I see how much it really means to people. Something small and that can seem kind of frivolous, but it's absolutely not. It's a moment for people and it's a ritual, and they light the candle and it just, whatever space they need, they create that space.
That's so true. And it does something different to different people at different times. There's no, like, you don't light a candle and go, oh, I'm so annoyed I lit that candle. It always elevates you into this positive space or relaxing space or transformative space. It really, like, again, depends on what the fragrance is, depends on what the occasion is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always a beautiful moment for someone. It's always a moment, you know.
Yeah.
It's always a moment.
Yeah.
What that moment is.
And the third question is, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to other candle makers?
Don't underestimate the amount of time that it's going to take you to do the things that you haven't yet thought of.
True. That's real.
Feels like an unhelpful statement, but labeling your candles takes so long. If you haven't outsourced your labels, then designing, well, even if you outsource the printing of them, you might still design them yourself. Designing labels takes so long. And then if you're printing them at home as well, printing them and cutting them, even if you've got a machine that does the cutting for you, it doesn't always work. So you might have to do it 3 or 7 times to try and make it work. Labeling has taken so much longer than making candles themselves. Wicking the jars takes as long as what I, in my mind, thought of as making candles, which is just pouring the wax. No, that's the least of it. Everything takes so much longer than perhaps expected. So try to factor those things in if you can, so that you don't leave yourself short and staying up until 3 or 4 in the morning before markets, as I have often done, because you factor in label making time.
Oh no, that sounds very stressful, Jenny.
It's been a journey.
And on that note, thank you so, so much from the bottom of my heart for being on the podcast again and sharing part of your journey, part of your story, and giving such a beautiful perspective on the candle making adventure that all the listeners are on. For any of the listeners that would like to get in touch with you, where can we find you online?
You can find me at Hampton Botanic on all of the social platforms. You can email me love@hamptonbotanic.com.au and my website hamptonbotanic.com.au.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to this episode. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout the conversation, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're feeling inspired, I would love it if you would write a review for the podcast and give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.